Andrea Vogt is with us, joining us from Italy. She was inside that courtroom for the dramatic verdict in the Amanda Knox case. You can read her stuff on Seattle PI and seattlepi.com. Let's start first with the DNA experts, because to me this is a very important issue, which is on this this knife that was found at the boyfriend's house that had Amanda Knox's DNA on the handle and purported to have DNA that belonged to the victim on the tip of the knife. What was that evidence? And both sides had experts. What were they saying?
Well, you know, the knife evidence, I think, was weak. You know, the prosecution was saying we've got the victim's DNA on the blade, Amanda Knox's DNA on the handle. The defense said, Amanda Knox's DNA on the handle, that's normal. She lived in the house. She used the knife. That's normal. The victim's DNA was a trace amount. So that was very much contested. And so the alleged murder weapon, you know, which would be the smoking gun, so to speak, is one of the most, if not the most hotly contested piece of evidence. The problem with this case, I think, is that the devil's more in the details. There's so many little pieces of evidence that sort of mounted that the prosecution brought together in the end. I think that's what the jury was looking for. You know, not one big smoking gun. It's sort of like someone was mentioning to me, you know, you've got one piranha can't kill you, but 40 can, you know, and it's
oh, absolutely.
And that's the situation of this case, was that there were so many little pieces of evidence that sort of mounted rather than the one smoking gun.
There was a witness who said he saw the African drifter fella who was already convicted of this murder together with the boyfriend and Amanda Knox, saw the three of them together that night?
Yes, there was a witness who said he had seen these three together, but you know, these are witnesses again that there was debate over also all the witnesses. There were more than 100 witnesses in this case.
Wow.
Amanda Knox herself said on the stand that she had met Rudy Gaudet at a party, that they knew each other but not well. So that was the other question that the defense was bringing up, was, you know, these people didn't really know each other that well. How, you know, why would they commit this murder? The prosecution argued, you know, it was a situation that spiraled out of control in the fight that just went bad.
I'm just looking for some sort of connection that night, because you know, were they together that night, or were Amanda and her boyfriend just hanging out, smoking reefer at the apartment and having sex, right? Because that's the alibi.
What they argue. The defense argues they were home, they smoked a joint, they watched this movie, and they made love, and they stayed home the whole night. Now, multiple witnesses argued, okay, they were seen here or they were seen there. That Amanda had been seen, a witness testified. And then you have one of the witnesses, for example, that is very contested, was a homeless man who sits on the park bench and who watches everything that comes and goes. And he claims, you know, he saw this couple standing outside, looking over the crime scene, watching, sort of fighting, debating. And this guy is, you know, the locals all know him. He's not mentally disabled in any way. He has all his mental faculties, but he's homeless. And so, of course, you had him as a witness, which was a contested point by the defense.
Wow. It's like every piece of evidence, you're like, all right, here's the evidence. There's always like, oh, well, yeah, but he's, you know.
Right. Well, you know, there were a lot of witnesses. There were over 100 witnesses. So, you know, I think they were able to knock down a few, but there were, you know, also the various alibis and the confession. That was a big part of this, was why did she blame Patrick Lumumba?
Was her version that it was sort of beaten out of her, this putting herself at the scene?
She said on the stand that she was hit in the back of the head. It didn't hurt, but it scared her. But that she was coerced. She was under pressure. They were saying, you're going to go down for 30 years, blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, she felt pressure, and she claims that then she broke down and said, yes, I was there. It was him, because she was under this police pressure. But what the prosecution argued, of course, is then the very next day, she asked for a piece of pen and paper. She said, I'm going to give you a gift. And she wrote down in her own handwriting, reiterating, I stand by everything I said the night before. So she said it once. She said it again to the prosecutor without an attorney, which is absolutely, you know, they've got a point there. She should have had an attorney if she was a suspect. The law says very clearly that she should have had an attorney. So they can't use those statements against her. But the day after, when she wrote in her own handwriting, "I stand by everything I said before," well, that's just one more sort of, her saying my version was correct. It's been a tragic story, and it's been sad for many of the parties, and I think that that's what we're seeing right now. A lot of the reaction is anger and frustration coming from Seattle, which is understandable when you see a young woman like this facing so much time behind bars. But I think the process was fair. And so all of these contested points should be brought up in appeal, not before the State Department. I don't think we'll ever know the truth of what happened that night. That's one, I guess, theme I could say is that all of these details, all of this evidence, all of this debate, and we still really don't have a clear sense of what happened that night. Because, even though the jury convicted, I don't think they felt like they had a clear motive. And that's one of the things that was in the papers the day after is that, yes, they convicted. They felt they had enough evidence to convict. They convicted unanimously, but they still didn't sense that there was a motive. In fact, they did not give it premeditated. They decided it was not premeditated. So, that means if we don't have a clear motive, we still don't really know why it happened or exactly what happened. And perhaps in the 2 years or in the months before the appeal, that will become more clear, mostly because Rudy Gaudet, for example, his appeal, there's going to be a decision on his appeal on the 21st of December. A lot of people are speculating that he may make some statements or, that the end of that appeal may in some way shed light on what happened. And I think that's the next step. The next thing people will be watching for is what happens in Rudy Gaudet's appeal.